Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a cordial welcome from my part to the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna on this beautiful summer's day in Vienna. I just want to give a very brief introduction and say perhaps a few things about the title of today's symposium, of today's event, Measuring Progress. I think that's actually a very important topic. Because when we read the media, when we look through scholarly debates, when we look at diplomatic debates, then there are lots of optimists about non-proliferation, perhaps there are even more pessimists about non-proliferation. And to be sure, there are reasons for optimism. The 2010 video conference of the NPT is widely regarded as a success. Perhaps another success story is the formation of more and more nuclear weapon-free zones. Most recently, Central Asia and Africa joined the club here. But there probably are also still reasons for pessimism. There is a history of ups and downs at NPT review conferences. There is the issue of the nuclear weapons-free zone in the Middle East, which will be a very hard issue to resolve.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank Ambassador Hans Winkler, the chair of the International Relations, that we are very glad to have Professor Marcus von Probst with us today. At the Diplomatic Academy, as well as the Austrian Institute for International Affairs, for keeping their door always open for this kind of cooperation with the Indonesian mission in Vienna. To thank the Executive Secretary of the CTBTO, Ambassador Tibortot, for making himself available to give keynote speech for this seminar. We are, of course, very much happy with the crowd that we have this early morning. Although we know the traffic jam is quite heavy today, but this morning, but we still have a good crowd today. As a long-time player in the disarmament issue, the speech of Ambassador Tibortot, I'm sure, will provide us with the keys to many questions that will arise during our discussions. May and June are known as the peak season for the Vienna-based diplomats working with IAEA matters, and it is especially so this year in the midst of preparations for the upcoming ministerial meeting on nuclear safety in June. Despite that, I see many fellow ambassadors and diplomats are present here. They deserve my highest appreciation and respect. The speakers and the moderators are the key to our discussion at this seminar. Our partners, the Austrian Institute for International Affairs, the OIIP, has made disarmament one of the main topics for the international security and disarmament of the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who used to be the coordinator for disarmament during 2010 and the conference in New York when he was posted in the Indonesian mission in New York. The second is Mr. Muhammad Najib, the Honorable Member of Parliament, whose article in an Indonesian English newspaper, the Jakarta Post, at the time and starting negotiation of the Nuclear Weapons Convention. For the same pursuit, we announced our initiative to start the national process for the CTBT ratification last year. And it is also the reason we have initiated this seminar today, simply because we cannot afford to lose the robust momentum in disarmament that we currently have. We believe it is in the interest of all to maintain this momentum. In conclusion, I wish you an inspiring discussion. Thank you very much.
It's a good common initiative, and this is a collective whether regulation is a good word or a bad word. We are not speaking over regulation. We are not speaking about excessive regulation. We don't want to see a situation where the absence of regulation would lead to things which we do not visualize. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Let me also briefly introduce my panel speakers. To my left, this is Mr. Fabian Uliard, and he is the Director for International Security and Disarmament in the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Previously, he acted in different capacities in the Foreign Service. He was Deputy Director for Interregional Cooperation in the Asia-Pacific and Africa, and acted as the head of section for economic cooperation among developing countries. He was also deployed to many missions abroad, so among others, he was the head of the political section of the Indonesian mission to the United Nations in New York from 2006 to 2010.
Dear colleague, very good morning to all of you. I have the opportunity. First, I would like to thank the Vienna Diplomatic Academy for inviting me to share my thought with you with regard to the disarmament and leading to the nuclear weapon convention. It's quite a debate. It's not an easy subject, but I think this is the first thing that I consider is very important, is because we never discuss nuclear weapon convention as an issue. We always discuss nuclear weapon convention, we always meet nuclear weapon convention in the meeting where each of us has to defend our position on that particular issue. So I guess this is the issue that, this is the forum that I believe at least it could build something that we could build upon next time to have the same understanding about this. Moreover, I have the opportunity to become the coordinator of non-aligned movement working group on disarmament. This is quite a very important and big focus. Of course, I'm the coordinator. It doesn't mean that I make a decision. Everybody make a decision. Ambassador let me make a decision. Colleagues from Egypt make a decision, and I merely facilitate them and speak on behalf of them in the particular issue. So that's the thing. Before I continue with my presentation, I just would like to remind you that we all, even though many people say disarmament and non-proliferation is a two faces of the same coin, but if you're not truly connected to the realities of our countries, we must not let down the citizens in our respective countries, as well as an overwhelming majority of the global citizens. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have a bag now, which we have to discuss further, and all these detailed steps eventually can lead to a nuclear weapons convention. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's not about the date, but since then we never had any response, positive response. Even so, that's why it's difficult to discuss the issue as an issue-wise, more like a position. I think we have to have more thing like brainstorming among these informal, so we can discuss it really as an issue, not as a position, because it's difficult to take out.
Okay. My name is Alfredo Lame, the permanent representative of Chile to the United Nations and other international organizations. The problem of the nuclear weapons convention and in general all problems related to the nuclear disarmament segment of the multilateral agenda need to be considered in a more general, wider framework, because disarmament is inserted in something which we call international security.
The opportunity is to do something like this and show that it is effective with non-proliferation. I feel that unless something like this is done, and these skeptical countries and communities can see it work for non-proliferation, you won't get them going along with disarmament. And this is not only countries that have nuclear weapons, there are countries in the world that see other countries that have nuclear weapons as their...
There is nuclear weapon weapon is more like on the deterrent policy. Which I believe Cold War has been dismantled since 1990s, but Cold War mentality, I think we still have until now. So this is the wall, the psychological wall that we need to break following the dismantlement of Berlin's Wall.
They go below 1,000. It depends on the targets. So now START is based on the consideration that you have to have 250 to 300 targets on each side. In order for deterrence to work effectively, if you rely on deterrence, it's not big states, not just states rely on deterrence, it would be enough to target.
The CTBT also stands for a new era in international politics after the end of the Cold War. It reflects the tremendous technological progress of the last few decades, which have made the verification of a comprehensive test ban possible.
And then you see an intensified spike in nuclear testing. By looking at the chart in a slightly different way, you can equate this with a temperature chart. And the temperature certainly reached almost lethal levels in the early 60s, of course the time of the Berlin crisis and the Cuban Missile Crisis. We also see it eventually tapered off, and you can see all the parts of history, détente and so forth in there, until the point where it comes to 1996, when the CTBT.
This is a landmark in the history of the NPT. I participated in the review conference as the chair of the main committee 3, and on this occasion, let me reiterate my most sincere appreciation for the contribution of Indonesia and Austria with regard to the realization of the consensus outcome. It is,
and to really underscore for our guests visiting from Jakarta that Indonesian ratification would indeed matter a great deal, and it would matter more in the near term. For reasons that have already been discussed, it would be an important positive signal for Washington policymakers and for the people who will be making the decision on U.S. ratification in Washington. As importantly, perhaps more importantly, and I don't think this point has maybe been emphasized enough, it would be an important negative signal for the naysayers on the U.S. side, including those in the Senate, fortunately their numbers are dwindling, who claim that ratification by remaining annexed to states is unlikely and that entry into force is therefore a remote possibility. There has been remarkable progress in the past decade in development of the international monitoring system. I think Jean's slides amply demonstrated that.
Actually, the ratification of the CTBT is only milestone, only the first step to the further noble duty, how to reduce nuclear
testing. Then the CTBT should be exploited to the maximum in order to get those countries which already ratified those nuclear weapon-free zones to also ratify the treaty. And that obviously applies completely to Southeast Asia. Just a few little remarks to Jean. Despite having 2 nuclear weapon states in the EU, has not prevented the EU from being a very strong supporter of the treaty, its most generous voluntary contributor. And please remember that France and the UK were the first 2 nuclear weapon states to sign and ratify the treaty.
In Indonesia, very optimistic with the recent situation in United States. And we know well how the big role political situation in United States influence the other country. So hopefully this momentum we could use together to change situation, to make our world better and safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I think on behalf of all of us, I wanted to thank the two distinguished speakers for the very interesting presentations and comments afterwards. Let's give a